so not used to seeing myself in a meet without a mask on. I have a face.
Okay, so we're live on YouTube, and welcome everybody to the Technology Committee meeting today. Let's see here, members in attendance. We have myself, Art Searle, Devin Winter, Karen Corcoran, and Crystal, what's your last name?
Oh, Leonard. Sorry
Leonard.
about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Crystal Leonard, she's a community member, and Donna Lico just popped in too. So
Yes, hello, but I am going to have to leave at 4 because I have another meeting. I'm sorry.
I've heard you're not the only one, so we'll make as much progress as we can. I don't want to be here forever, so somewhere here I have an agenda. There it is. All right, so I'm going to officially call the meeting to order at 3:32, and then we come to open forum. Does anybody have anything they want to cover under open forum?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
So we're reading a book on sharing and feelings and stuff like that, and I'll share a feeling that I have. I have a feeling that the network and the wireless access in the high school is not as robust as it was pre-pandemic. I don't have any data or other than a feeling of how it feels, and just anecdotal evidence being in classrooms with teachers and everything's working fine, and suddenly 10 kids are gone, or 10 kids can't download whatever that are physically in the building. So, and this is not to disparage or throw anybody under the bus. I'm just sharing that out as an observation, just to say somebody that's out there that's been using the network for a little bit, it feels less robust.
I can agree with you, Art, and I also think that it impacts our swipe cards work some days and not other days. Like there's just a lot of little things that seem to be, and like I said, I don't have the data either, but I can second what you're saying.
Actually, me too, because in the junior high this week in particular, we've had lots of people freezing in meetings, both meetings with kids, but also just small team meetings. We've had problems with people freezing.
Okay. So I'm not going to disagree with you. I will say it shouldn't be that way. We actually upgraded our link to the internet to 10 gig from 1 gig. So we should not be getting slowdowns, but it does feel like things aren't as robust as they used to be. And I think a part of that is that we're doing a lot of streaming video. Wi-Fi is not made to stream video. No matter what people tell you, Wi-Fi is not made to stream video. Just in it by its own nature, when a collision happens, both stations wait a random interval of time to try transmitting again to see if there's another collision. So I mean, there's a lot of waiting in Wi-Fi, which is not good when you're trying to stream a video. But at the same time, you know, and I understand everybody's frustration with the cards. We had a lot of problems with the card readers this year. The cards are also getting old, so they're starting to wear out, and we didn't have any replacements. Those are on their way in, so hopefully we'll be able to issue some replacements to people who are having problems. I know Joe got all the controllers working better than they were, but he didn't get that done till last Friday, so you may not have noticed. So yeah, I mean, looking at the data, the Wi-Fi looks like it's working fine. Looking at our internet access, it's not like we're overloading the network at all. But I feel this, I get the same feeling. It doesn't feel as snappy as it usually does, and you occasionally get random freezes and reboots. Like, I don't know, it's weird.
So I don't know anything about this other than, you know, my own experience, but in my house when we were having this problem, we had to upgrade our router, not the actual internet speed to the house. So I don't know how old those routers are around the school, but is that a possibility?
They were actually, so the switches were replaced last September. The routers were replaced last September too. So it's all new equipment. I don't necessarily like the new routers that we have. They're kind of newfangled for my my taste. I like a good old fashioned router that just routes. These new ones do software defined stuff. I don't really understand it, so I don't like it. Once I understand it, I'll probably like it a lot. But right now, I don't like it. But yeah, it's all, Ocean just refreshed all of our equipment. We just refreshed all of our network equipment. So I don't understand. Nothing really changed other than that we're using a lot more video. But overall, we're actually using less bandwidth than we normally do. So any other comments or anything else we want to talk about under open forum before we move on? Okay, so the consent agenda is to approve the minutes for the meetings of June 3rd, July 1st, and August 2nd. None of those meetings we had a, we didn't have 5 people at any of those meetings, so we didn't do any business. So there's really nothing to approve. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, Art, you had Google shared drives that you wanted to talk about. So I'll give you the floor.
So Google changed the way shares work. They took a really beautiful system and then modified it, is the word I would guess I would use because we're live. And basically, instead of adding a file to your drive, you're adding a shortcut, and that changes the way it's backed up and handled and some other things. And so I guess, do we want to allow teachers to create shared drives? Because I think shared drives still handle or still allow files and so forth to be backed up, and like with backup and sync and so forth, or file stream, whichever one the teacher is using. Is that something you want to allow? I know when I go look at shared drives, I can't make a shared drive as a teacher, but I've been added to them. Would it be beneficial to investigate that?
If there's demand for it, I don't have a problem with it.
I just see people that have been accustomed to, and they probably aren't noticing yet that it's not a file. You know, when you said, oh, I want to add this file to my drive, and they were using backup and sync, now there's a copy on their local Google Drive on their MacBook or whatever they're using. That's no longer the case. I'm just thinking about how we could be proactive in preventing that bug from biting people, or that surprise from biting people when they show up to, I don't know, a meeting where there's no access, but the file's supposed to be on their desktop or laptop, and now it's not. It's a shortcut that points to an internet link that they can't access. I just, I guess I wanted some feedback.
I mean, I remember looking at that article and thinking, this could bite some people. And I don't have a problem with turning that on for people, as long as it doesn't become something that I have to manage all the time. Like, I don't need another thing that I need to touch. But if people are self-managing their Google Drives, their Google shared drives, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't know, maybe if you want to turn it on for a subset, or turn it on and nobody knows, and then I can go tinker with it and say, for this application with this teacher, hey, you know, here's what you can do to make it work like it used to, for example. I'd be interested in trying that.
I think I wouldn't have a problem with you doing a pilot where, you know, the people, the tech coaches, we'll call them tech coaches, but the people who are tech savvy in each building, turn it on for them. Give them a little bit more access, let them create them for other people if they need to, you know, whatever the case may be, before we open the floodgates. Because what I don't want is to turn that on and then have to turn it off and people get upset because they lost it. But
Yeah, or you end up with 1,000 shared drives,
right.
which could happen.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is, you know, it's a shared drive. It's like sharing it on a share on the network, and anybody who has access to it has access to it.
Right.
And the manager of the shared drive controls who has access to it. So they could add someone that you're not aware of, and now someone's looking at something you didn't necessarily want them to see. So it's another thing to think about.
Yeah, and the flip side of that, though, is if it's a shared drive that's owned by you, for example, or someone who's more durable than a teacher that might be about to retire, it could prevent an entire department's curriculum from going poof.
Right, right. So I totally understand why we might want that, and we can. I mean, I've been using Google Shared Drive since they came out in beta. We use one for the technology committee. So
Yeah, we have a couple. We have one for business and media technology department, which we don't use as effectively as we should, but that's pretty much because we're already managing our own stuff and sharing it with our kids the way we need to.
yeah, we use it in the central office too. So
All right, I'll experiment in pilot mode.
have at it.
Thank you.
Any comments from anybody else on that topic before we move on? All right. G Suite Enterprise. I've gotten a lot of emails from people saying, are we buying G Suite Enterprise? The answer is no. It is something we could look at. It's not budgeted. It's not something I feel like we have to do right now. It's not like Meet doesn't work without it. There's a handful of features that people might like that you get from Google Enterprise. There's a handful of features I really might like in Google Enterprise, like the ability to authenticate Windows computers against Google instead of Active Directory. But it's not. So all of the things that I've seen so far are either vaporware, they haven't been released yet, or they're half-baked and not complete yet, or you know, I just can't see paying $50 per user per year for every full-time employee at this point. Even with a 50% discount, it's still not ready for prime time. And I don't like that Google tried to, you know, they're trying to push people into buying it by taking away Meet features that aren't really features yet. I don't know. So that's where I'm at. Unless somebody else feels very strongly that we should investigate it, I'm not recommending we move forward with that right now.
I'm fine with that on my end. I think people are overwhelmed right now. Something new isn't going to be helpful at this point in our building.
And I think you would need a compelling reason to, or a compelling education reason to invest in it. And right now that doesn't exist.
And the other thing is we're already paying probably, I think it's $42 per FTE for Microsoft licensing, but that covers the licensing for all the servers in our data center. It covers all the Windows computers around the district. It covers Office for every teacher if they want it. You know, so we're using it. If we could get it to a position where we're not using that anymore, then we could replace that with this, but I can't see paying for both. So that's G Suite Enterprise. Zoom and Google Meet. How is that going for everybody? I know you guys are using it a lot. I use it a lot. Some days I just want to be off of Zoom altogether.
Google Meets, I use Google Meets.
So
Very well.
any comments from the floor on those topics? I figured they'd be a hot button issue.
Bob, we could barely hear you. Try that again, please.
So I use Google Meets and generally it works quite well. Is that better?
Yeah.
So we find at our age group that Zoom works better. It's just more user friendly for the younger students and they can figure out how to use it. But that's what we've been using and we haven't had any problems as of recently.
We just had this conversation on my team yesterday because I've been using Meets and other people have been using Zoom and I wanted to do breakout rooms. And so I was going to switch and the people that have been using Zoom said, no, the kids have been telling them they would prefer we use Meets. And I'm not sure exactly what the kids are experiencing as different, but our team leader, Karen Reynolds, had just surveyed the 7th graders and the 7th graders said they prefer Meets over Zoom.
I like using Meet with my classes. It just works. I start the meeting, boom, kids jump in. It's generally spot on. And it's simple. Even I can figure it out.
You know, a couple of the kids with the Meet, and I'm pretty sure I was on my Chromebook, but it was giving you option. It just started for me on one of my computers. I don't know. I have both of them here to stay in Chrome or go outside, but going outside, it was really weird and funky. I had to tell a couple kids to stay in their Chrome. I think it was some kids they were junior high kids, but they had loaner Chromebooks for whatever reason. It was weird. I'm not clear on all the circumstances, but it was just weird. But I saw the message too. And when I jumped out of Chrome to go to the Meet, it wouldn't work right. I don't even know why I got the message, but I just.
That's jumping to the Android version of Google Meet, which is installed on some Chromebooks, and the experience is less than what it is in the Chrome browser on a Chromebook.
I just said
have your kids stay in Chrome.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And I would recommend they uninstall that. I mean, I know some kids did install it, but I don't recommend it. It doesn't work very well unless you're on a phone. You gotta remember, most cell phones are actually more powerful than the Chromebooks. So
By a lot.
especially when you consider that when they're using an Android app on a Chromebook, it's using an Android emulator on less powerful hardware. So it's just really bad. So there's no major issues that we need to address. Everything seems to be working okay, and it's just a matter of preference. We're still not out of Zoom Premium licenses, so if somebody needs those features, have them put in a ticket, and we'll get them a license.
I'll just throw out that I had one teacher who wanted to do breakout rooms with Google Classroom, and there are some extensions that do that are either don't work or that are unnecessarily complex. And I showed her how to make repeating events in Google Calendar, and so she just invites different groups to those meets, and they're scheduled. They just happen. She jumps into the meets go live, and she's ready to have her breakout rooms, and it works out pretty well. And once it's set up as a repeating event, it just works.
Nice.
So Art, it would be awesome if could you do like a little video tutorial on how to do that for the staff? Because I think some people would like to do that.
All right. Probably not this week, but eventually.
Okay. Just I explored those extensions as well that you're talking about. One of them kind of works like sort of semi-okay, but it's clunky, and the other one doesn't work at all. But that sounds like something that I know that some history teachers would definitely like to use.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys have a need for it, there's other options out there. We could spin up a Jitsi server or whatever, whatever we need to do. But if you're making this work, then great. All right, next on the list are Toshiba copiers. How are those working for people? We installed those over the summer. They have a few more features than the Sharps did. They,
More
they were
user-friendly.
actually less expensive, so. Do we hate them? Do we like them?
So
I-
my only comment about, they work fine. But my only comment was one I would make about the previous ones as well. They log you out way too fast. Because if you're standing there, you'll put a bunch of stuff in to make copies, and like it'll be partway through and it'll log you right out of the thing, and you gotta log back in again to make your next set of copies. So it's wicked annoying. If we could, I don't know if that software control where you could just make it so it takes longer to log you out, that would be great.
I will check into that for you, Bob. As soon as I find a pen.
They work okay. They're just a bit slower, I feel, than the old ones were. The old one was actually faster in our building. But besides that, everything else seems to be working fine.
When you say slower, you mean slower to make copies?
Oh, a lot slower to make copies, yes.
Interesting.
I don't feel
Yeah,
like
I would
that
say-
with mine.
Because
Mine, the
That's
small-
actually a faster copier than you guys had before.
Yeah, well, the one in our all of us are commenting on it because it's the one in our cafeteria. It just it's the only one we actually really have because we only have the other one in the office that we try not to use.
Right.
So it's just a lot slower than the old one. I don't know why, but it just is.
I'll look into the settings on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like the one in the high school was faster than the previous one.
I feel like my smaller one in the library is faster.
All of them went up by at least 10 pages per minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what we're experiencing then.
Can I ask a question about Toshiba Find Me and cloud printing?
If you have to.
Just curious. I know it's being deprecated, the cloud print. What's our path forward?
Joe is implementing paper cut mobility print.
And the Chromebooks are just going to fly with that happily?
From everything I've read, that's how it's supposed to work, Art.
Okay.
And that's as much commitment as you're going to get from me.
Sorry.
So Art, what did you say is happening to cloud print?
Google is deprecating it at the end of this year, I believe, right?
So what?
Yeah, Google's killing cloud print. It's going on the Google graveyard.
And so there's some Google solution to that, like so
No.
that I can print from my 500 Chromebooks that I have all over the place?
Google does
no?
not have a solution. Their solution is to add the printer directly using cups or use an extension from somebody else.
So you'll still be able to print to your printer, but you won't be able to share it like a Google document, for example, like you do sometimes with your students.
Yeah, I mean that's like a whole part of my entire research paper process. Is I give the kids access to my printer so they can print out their sources in my room.
You'll have to open up a ticket with IT, have us add your printer to the students you want to have it. You won't
Okay.
be able to do it yourself anymore, unless you have them add the printer directly.
Okay, so yeah, you're talking. All right. So like, how will I even print to it? So I'll have to open up a ticket so I can print to my own printer too. Is that
Well,
the case, or-
No, right now your printer, I'm assuming, is connected to your computer, and you print to it, and then you share it using Google Cloud Print with your students.
No,
You won't be able to
print-
share it because there won't be a Google Cloud Print.
Okay, yeah. So no, I print to it through Google Cloud.
Oh,
don't-
yeah,
I don't
that's not
actually-
going to work anymore.
I don't plug into it. And the same thing in my house. My printer's like up on my upstairs porch, and so I've never actually hooked a wire to it. It's always been through. Holy crap! I'm sorry to. I'm just taken aback here. I've used it for so many years, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, I know, and it's a decent product. It works reasonably well, but like most things Google, they decided that they didn't want to support it anymore.
But you've got until the end of this calendar year to invent another solution, Bob, or apply something different. We'll get something else going, whether it's common units printing or something else. We'll get it going.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm
Oh,
glad I heard about it before the end of the year.
Jeremy, before I have to leave, I do want to tell you that before my absence, I ran a ton of copies and I ran 130-page packets and stapled them. And the junior high printer worked fabulously. Not a single jam, not an overheat, nothing. So I was really impressed.
Well, let's hope they hold up. But yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with though. The only thing we're having trouble with is printing envelopes. There's a convoluted process for that, and we haven't figured it out. But that's the only thing I've run into. All right. Anything else about copiers? Ed tech in the classroom and outside the classroom, remote. How is that going? Are there any tools that we should be looking at buying? Are there things that we have that you love, or the things we have that you're like, why did we buy this?
I would advocate for, like, I know we can't just say, hey, there's a pool of money, but it would be really nice so that when somebody's coming up or trying the next ed puzzle or quizzes or whatever it might be, it would be really cool if we could say to that teacher, go investigate that, go run with this and test it for us. Here's $29.95 reimbursement for your subscription. Go try it, tell us what you think. That would be, I think, a good way to vet some of the tools that are out there. Because it's one person or us we as a tech team can't investigate them all. And I think a lot of hidden gems would rise to the surface, and a lot of stuff that's just, you know what, it's not worth $29.95 would get left in that it's not worth it pile.
I can throw that in my budget.
So what we found is a lot of places will give us a year or a few months free. Melissa's really good at figuring that out, or I email a lot of the places, or Claudette, and they give us the time free so we can try the sites first. And then we've done it. Not every classroom has the same things in our building anymore and stuff like that, just to figure out what works and what doesn't, and what, all those pieces. I find that the places really want you to purchase, so they'll give you those trial periods. I mean, like last year, one company gave it to me for the whole year. But then we figured out it wasn't worth it. So sometimes you just have to reach out to them, and they'll give you opportunities to try their program for free.
And that happened 100-fold in March. Basically, any ed tech vendor said, here you go. They sprinkled some cocaine out there and tried to get us all hooked, and they did on a lot of things.
How do you guys feel about Discovery Education?
I don't
So
use it.
the
Isn't
state,
that mostly Metcalf?
Metcalf buys it.
Yeah, we don't have it over here at Wawa.
Well, you did in the spring. You probably just didn't realize it.
Yeah, there's only so much you can use with the little ones at one time.
Yeah. So they signed an MPA with the state that should reduce the amount that we're paying, and I'm hoping I can convince them to take Metcalf's payment and use that to either extend it or expand it. So because we paid way more than the MPA is for. The MPA pricing is much better. So my question is, should I ask them to extend it or expand it? Is that something we'd be interested in using anywhere else?
I don't use it. I don't know of anybody who does. I used it. Gosh, I probably used that 12, 13 years ago. Was the last time I used it.
I mean, it's basically, they got some lesson plans on there, but it's basically just what's the word I'm looking for? A cultivated list of videos from Discovery, obviously, that you can use to teach with.
I would
Yeah.
say extend. I know we wouldn't probably use it over here at all. We have, and all those other things that we can use rather than adding one more piece.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the high school is concerned, like, I mean, I don't know exactly what Discovery's got, but I mean, you can find any, just for example, you can find any history video you want on YouTube.
Right.
So,
And I think by the time you get to high school, you don't really need the type of interface like Discovery. Teachers like to use Discovery because kids aren't going to go get lost on YouTube when they watch the YouTube video. Whereas in high school, they're going to go get lost on YouTube no matter what you do. So why are you trying to prevent it?
Yeah, Discovery Ed is that walled garden, and I personally find it constraining, but I don't use it anyway.
Okay. So yeah, I will definitely put in my requests for this year, a budget for trials where maybe people could apply to be reimbursed for something, and then as long as they agree to report back on, like evaluate it, then we'll pay for it. I think that's a great idea, Art. Anything else under Ed Tech? All right, student and teacher devices. So iPads are in. I am inventorying them as quickly as I can. It's kind of slow, but I'm hoping to have the 7th grade done this week so that we can deploy those and get back the Chromebooks that they have. So we'll actually have some Chromebooks again. And then do the 8th grade. As far as Chromebooks go, still no update from the vendor when we might be getting those. Until they can commit to a date, they're not even interested in giving us an ETA.
Could the Chromebooks that come back from the 7th graders, could they get deployed to other students for whom an iPad is completely unsuitable for their classwork?
If you're saying to the 9th graders, no, they can't, because I need Chromebooks for iReady testing at Metcalf, and we have none.
I need loaners.
And
I
Bevan
need
needs loaners.
I mean, some of those loaners are going to 9th graders whose iPads bit the dust, but then I have regular high school Chromebooks that are repairing. I'm out of loaners, and unless Max has been working hard and he brought me a whole bunch, but they already went back out. We've had so many tech tickets.
The iPads are wonderful devices, high-end hardware, impeccable software. Just for the Intro to Computing and Data Science program, they are horrible device. Just throwing that out there.
I feel your pain, Art.
so is it the feeling like at the junior high school that they want to continue with iPads? Just talking about the future here, because to be perfectly honest, like, I mean, maybe there's something down there that they're doing that they think that those are better, but holy cow, they're useless for 9th grade. Completely useless.
We just had this conversation and they elected to go with iPads again. So I just bought them new iPads.
Which wasn't the consensus.
I mean, that's their decision, I guess. It's just like, I mean, you can't type on the things. Like, you can, but
I understand.
yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I'm not going to tell a whole section of teachers what they need to do. And I even gave them the option of, iPad carts and one-to-one with Chromebooks. And they elected to go one-to-one with iPads and Chromebook carts for testing.
They use so many apps with their Google Classrooms and the way they have it set up. It works well for them, but then once the students move on, it's obsolete, really.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean,
Maybe that's what they decided. So that's what they decided.
I did reach out to our vendor and say, hey, if you can get me 125, I'll take 125. And she's like, actually, your order of 860 is very small. So I don't think they will break it up. I mean, if we have the devices to give you, we'll give you the devices. But she said, I'll keep that in mind. So that's where we're at. We're just waiting. And teacher devices.
Did I
Teacher
hear you say we
devices,
have- did I hear you say you have 860 Chromebooks ordered?
760. 760.
Wow. Okay. Yikes.
It's replacing the entire fleet at the elementary schools and the junior high and 1-to-1 for the 9th grade.
Wow.
Adds up.
Are they Acers or Dells?
Neither, they're HPs.
Oh, Lord, now I'm gonna have 3 charges to manage in this cart.
No,
Jeremy, you're killing
All
me.
Chromebooks now use USB-C.
At least
All
until they
right,
come
well,
out to USB-D.
Right.
Yeah, those
But-
Dell, I could use
So
Dell.
if you're not using USB-C and you sell that model in Europe, you pay a fine per device. It's like $10 per device you pay as a fine for selling it without using a standard charger. The only company I know of that's willing to do that is Apple, and it's because they make a killing on replacement chargers. So yes, I elected to go with the HPs because they had some in stock, and then we didn't get our PO in fast enough to get those. And Dell was saying February at the earliest. We've had so many repair problems with the Acers. I was like, let's go back and try the HPs because they came highly recommended from a lot of other school districts. They're also AMDs. So we'll give them a shot, see how it goes. Intel has such a shortage of chips right now for their mobile chipsets. You know, that's why Dell was talking about February for delivery. So this year is the year I'm going to budget for teacher devices. So we should probably evaluate some teacher devices and decide what we're going to do there before we get to the, down to the wire. So, I mean, I'm not very impressed with the Chromebooks that we have right now for teachers. I would like to get a much higher end Chromebook in here to demo. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
So-
I'm all for the higher end, and I'm one that helped recommend the current Chromebook, and it seemed like, I don't know, when was it, 2017 that we did that? That we were evaluating these in the summer of 2017.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a different epic. It seemed like a pretty decent machine. It needs more horsepower, it needs more RAM, and it needs more CPU. But having said that, it's actually been a serviceable machine.
So it used to be just a few years ago that the high-end Chromebooks cost almost as much as a MacBook. Is that no longer the case?
Yeah, well, so MacBooks are about $1,100, no matter how you slice it. You can get a high-end. These Chromebooks were $500 and change. The current teacher Chromebooks. You can get. There's still a bunch of range in between there where you can get a really high-end Chromebook without spending $1,100. Even around $800, you can get an i5 with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gig SSD. Basically, think of a low-end Windows laptop or even a medium-end Windows laptop, but running Chrome instead. You can imagine how much faster that is.
I guess I'm just having a tough time, like, I don't know, I have a whole fleet of $199 Chromebooks. Work fine. And I don't see the So, and I don't have one of the newer Chromebooks. I do have one of the new ones the kids use, which works fine as well, whatever that costs, $250.
Okay. But do you teach with them, Bob?
I have taught with the kids' Chromebook. Yes, one day I
Okay.
was pressed into it, but I like literally right now I'm on a Chromebook, like a 15-inch Chromebook. That I don't know. Like it's interesting to me, like to see. It just strikes me as like spending a ton of money on I don't even know low end cars are, right? Like instead of buying a Mercedes or something like that, you buy a Hyundai that costs the same amount of money or a little bit less. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this. I just don't. Or you use your Chromebook. Is it better than the kids' Chromebooks?
A lot. It's a
And
lot.
now, what
better.
do you? And could you explain to me what's better about it? I guess what
The touch
capabilities does it
screen
have?
makes a huge difference for me. Being able to pinch in, zoom out very quickly, and the screen is bigger and it's clearer and it's brighter. The audio capabilities on this, just listening to it in a Google Meet, for example, the audio is better, can go louder, it's faster. Everything about this, the keyboard, I mean, everything about this is better than the student's school Chromebook, the district issued Chromebook for the students. And I would even say probably like one of these years real soon should be the last year that students get a non-touchscreen Chromebook. And I know that the touchscreen is going to be more expensive to repair and it's going to be more expensive to purchase, but the fact that it is a touchscreen may make it more valuable to students, and maybe they take better care of it. I don't know.
So, I mean, you're probably right. My experience with touchscreens is that I can't stand them. That's just my own personal experience. I bought a touchscreen Chromebook, and I'm like, what? I never use it.
I had an Asus touchscreen Chromebook that was a personal device that is 6.5 years old. It just ran out of updates a couple of weeks ago. The right speaker is blown out of it, and the 3 E, D, and C key no longer work on it. They just quit last week, and so I'm using the MacBook Air that I purchased from the district as a personal device for the first time now, and I miss my touchscreen on that junky old Asus.
Well, I think that what I just have to say is that your kid is adorable, Jeremy. Holy cow.
This is Alice. She just woke up early from her nap, I guess. And mommy's at an appointment, so. Hi.
Is that the Bridge of the Enterprise you're on there, Alice?
This is Discovery, actually.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Bob, get with it.
Sorry. I'm a very old man.
Yeah, we have video meetings for one of my, a couple of my clubs, and one of my friends always comes on the Bridge of the Enterprise. I'm like, my ship is older than yours, but it looks much better. Anyway, so yeah, I would not want to try and teach with a student Chromebook. They're fine with 4 or 5 tabs open, but when you try and get 10 tabs open and video stream and share a screen at the same time, they crawl. I wouldn't want to try and teach with a low-end Chromebook. The ones we have now, my biggest complaint with them is the processor. They have that C Media, they're not the fastest processor. I mean, they're not bad, but it's not an Intel, and it's not an AMD. It's what you find in a low-end tablet. So I think we should evaluate some models and maybe buy a few demos. I have some money in my budget for that. I purposely made sure there was a little bit there. So if you guys find any that you want a demo, send me a link and we'll see if we can get some. Hopefully I can get the companies to send me a demo, but with inventory the way it is right now, I don't know whether they'll be willing to, which is why I made sure I had money for it.
What size is the current screen art on the one you have?
I think these are what, 13-inch screens?
They have 13.1 full HD screens, yeah.
Yeah, it's an Acer R13.
Yes,
And honestly, for work in the classroom, and work here. I'm using it right now. It's decent. I don't. I also say this, you know, I have a nice iMac on my desk at school with a gorgeous screen where I can split things out and multiple windows and so forth that I can see. I wouldn't be able to do that with this. I mean, it's a decent machine. In my travels, like working with Robin Borges with hers, and some of the things that she's trying to do, and it's just, oh my gosh, if this thing had a little bit more horsepower, it would be so much more usable.
And I understand that a lot of people look at the MacBooks like a Cadillac, but they're really not. I mean, it's a low-end MacBook. It's not. They're great devices. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're worth what we pay for them. And you know, I don't like the interface, but that's me personally. I grew up with, well, NetWare and DOS.
I mean, I don't use my MacBook for teaching either. It's like, I honestly, the interface to me is just like, I use a Windows computer, but that's, you know, nobody's going to do that. But if I was actually teaching, I would definitely choose to use a Chromebook instead of a MacBook. Although I like the MacBook for other stuff. Right? I like the form factor. It's awesome. But you're right. I think it's just way too much money for what you get. But it does, you know, it's an actual computer with a hard drive and stuff too. So that's the thing about Chromebooks. Like, I just have a tough time accepting that they're something that you should pay a lot of money for, I guess.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you for student devices, but you know, the real issue is when you get a teacher who retires and they picked a Chromebook, and then somebody comes in from another district where they had a really nice computer and now they're stuck with this Chromebook that they already don't want to use, but it's all I have for them. Like, I feel bad. I actually gave away my personal MacBook to someone who hated their Chromebook. The one that I purchased from the district, I gave it to somebody who really needed a device. So, you know, it is what it is, but.
So in any case, I guess evaluating new ones would be sooner rather than later, right?
Yes, I would like to get some, like, at least know which ones we want to evaluate over the next month or so we have them. I'd like to be able to budget this year knowing which device we want to go with.
I would say also, just throw out there, like the MacBook, super nice machine. The one that I have now, it's 6 years old, still awesome. But for some workflows, particularly teachers that are heavily into Google Classroom, Google Docs, and so forth, for some workflows, the Chromebook is actually a lot easier than the MacBook. It just save it to their drive, boom, done. That type of, it's actually really seamless. And I think for some workflows, it works better for teachers than the MacBook. Although not all the teachers recognize that yet.
I agree with Art, and I kept my Mac and I have a Chromebook, and I like using it at school, for school, with students, and then I can see what they can see. In the past couple of days I've been virtual and I had both out, and it seems to be working pretty well. The one issue I have, and it's because I'm home, my Chromebook and the Wi-Fi here, I only pay like the minimum, so I don't have like really like crazy big Wi-Fi, and I live kind of near the water, so like I just moved because for some reason my Chromebook starts, but the connection's not as good as my Mac, but it's probably my home Wi-Fi. But that's the one thing I've noticed.
The positioning of the Wi-Fi antenna is not as good in the Chromebook. I will say that. And I think Art is running into that in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
You know, an Android phone gets a better signal than the teacher Chromebooks.
Katie has issues in the house.
So just, I would like to evaluate like a 15-inch Chromebook. If we can.
15-inch, sure. I mean, and you know, Art really likes the touchscreen, so I think we should look at that too.
I got a guy outside, so sorry for the noise.
No problem. All right, so, you know, that's your assignment. Find some devices for us to evaluate, and we'll move forward with that. Let's try and wrap this up. Budget update. We're broke. Jim is still figuring out how he's going to spend some COVID money if it comes in. So if you have ideas on that, pass them along. But right now, you know, he's trying to figure out how we're going to make things work with what we got. And next year is going to be a tough budget year, I think, because we've got a big structural deficit now that we're going to need to make up. Technology plan. We'll have to get to that one of these days. And let's get to my favorite part of the meeting where we share something awesome. I'm not going to go first this time. You guys got it.
All right, so I got something. Today, twice, a student showed me something in Meets that definitely made things easier for me. Like I knew you could present just a Chrome tab. I usually go present the entire screen because I switch between tabs all the time. So I was having problems sharing the video. The kid said if you do it in a tab, it always works better. And indeed it did. And then also, I didn't realize that if you switch from tab to tab, it has a little button now that will say, now switch to sharing this tab. So I could just share a tab now and then just go from tab to tab to tab rather than sharing the whole screen. So that actually improved my workflow. And it was 2 kids that told me how to do it, which was awesome.
And you're finding that the transmission of the video or the tab that you're trying to present is actually smoother than if you present the whole desktop, for example?
Yes, actually today, when I was doing the whole thing, it wouldn't actually even work. It was a YouTube video. It was just like kind of black. But then when I switched over to just doing a tab, it came in much better. And I could see that it was better for the kids too at home because I have another computer set up like where I'm watching what they're watching. And it definitely like went much faster and smoother. So just projecting the tab is definitely a better deal. And then now that you don't have to go back and like change tabs in the Meet, you can just do it right in the tabs, which is awesome.
Cool. All right, I'll go. Video production class, kids are going to build a news story. I've got kids that are going to be interviewing family members, faculty, other students. We're going to make use of outside space. We've been given kind of a go ahead to be able to use the studio if we're all inside of the control room and one person is at the anchor desk, for example. That person is alone in the room. They can be unmasked and do their intro and closing. So kind of some cool stuff going on. Even though the kids were at home 3 days this week, and I'll see them tomorrow and Friday. So, I mean, doing what we can do.
That's great, Art. I'm glad you guys came up with a workaround. Evan, what do you got that's awesome?
A lot of the junior high teachers and me, we did Bitmoji classrooms and they embedded theirs right into their Google Classroom and it's making it really easy. The kids seem to like it a lot to get to all the pieces and assignments and things for the teachers. Mine, it's a little, I'm still trying to figure out how to make it get into my library homepage in present mode. But it's pretty cool because it gives you the links that they're always searching for right up top of the bat if they can at least get to the library page. But it's working really good on the teachers' classrooms.
I did add that for you today, Bevan.
I did see that. Thank you very much. the junior high kids were always like, I don't know where to go.
Alicia, do you have anything to share? Guess not. Crystal, do you have anything you want to share?
No, but thank you for letting me listen in. Like I said, I'm a parent in the district. I also belong to the CLAC, and obviously with special ed children, technology is really important to me. So I appreciate you guys letting me listen in and understand what this committee does. So thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Always happy to have anybody who's interested join us.
And I'm also, I work in IT, so obviously that field is interesting to me. So like I said, thanks for letting me be part of this.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining seriously.
And then my something awesome hasn't been an awesome week, but I did capture a couple of grainy images from the International Space Station. They're broadcasting slow scan TV on the amateur radio transmitter. They actually just replaced the amateur radio transmitter up there, so when they're not broadcasting or talking to schools, there's a repeater on the International Space Station, so you can talk to other people by bouncing the signal through the space station, which is pretty cool. I'm kind of hoping that my application to start a radio club at the high school gets approved so that I can share that with the kids too. So
That's cool.
all right,
All right,
that's
I gotta
all
fly
I've
out.
got. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about before we close the meeting? Okay, having reached the end of the agenda, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, JT.
Thanks. Bye.